Welcome to For the Long Run, the podcast exploring the why behind what keeps runners running long, strong, and motivated. I'm your host, Jonathan Levitt. Through personal and professional connections in the running world, I have the privilege of getting to know some amazing athletes. I've always been fascinated by the psychological aspect of running, and this podcast is aimed at exploring this and much more. I hope you enjoy. This episode is sponsored by GU Energy Labs, a performance sports nutrition brand that I love. I've been using GU products for the majority of my running career, and watching their products and team evolve over time has been super cool to see. Offering initially just energy gels, they now offer gels, chews, stroop waffles, post-training recovery mix, electrolyte options, traditional nutritional supplements like vitamin D, magnesium, and more. I use just about all of their products on a regular basis, and lately have been loving their liquid gels, which I found to be the easiest mid-run fuel of anything I've tried yet. For the Long Run listeners, get 20% off anything on their site with the code FTLR at guenergy.com. Enjoy. Welcome back. I have Lisa Rivera joining me on the podcast today. Lisa, thanks so much for taking some time to chat.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So first question, who is Lisa?
Adalgisa Rivera, nicknamed Lisa, is an afro-latina, born in Harlem, raised between New York and New Jersey. I am a runner. I'm a community activist. I'm a social worker. I'm a veteran. I'm a mentor. I am a supporter in the community. I am a pacer with Harlem Run. I am a GU ambassador and so many more. I am just a person who loves to give back to the community and a product of the community.
That is quite the intro. You're doing a lot of amazing things. And first, thank you for your service, first and foremost. So everything you just said can be summed up with one word, I think, and that word is community. So what does community mean to you?
Community, honestly, is not just my passion. It's what excites me. It's a purpose for me. Going through, like many of us, we go through many hurdles, many challenges and traumas in our life. And the community has always, since my childhood, has been where I turn to, or my supportive network, or where I get fulfillment from, or excitement, or just have fun, right? So community to me is one of the biggest and most important thing that there is, which is why I always find a way to give back, or to be involved, or just to engage. Honestly, sometimes just going to an event, because it's just so meaningful for me. Like when that sense of community is lost, especially now with COVID, redefining and finding new ways of creating a sense of community has been on a difficult side, but it just reinforced the importance of community in my life.
I love that. How have you shifted your approach to community in 2020, and what are some of the ways you've managed to stay connected in this sort of disconnected world we're in?
So, like all of us, Zoom has been one of the many ways to stay connected. We've had several like birthday, baby showers, holiday, work events celebrated through Zoom. Thank God that we're in the era of technology, as well as FaceTime. And, for those that don't have iPhones, you have the WhatsApp videos. I don't personally have TikTok, but I love all the TikTok videos that are shared on social media. They keep the humor up for me, as well as sharing it with others. Another way has been, I've never really done virtual workouts or hosted virtual workouts. So in the beginning of the lockdown, I'm from New York City. So in the beginning of the lockdown here, we were trying to stay all motivated with each other. And as a Shape Up instructor, it's a New York City program that offers free fitness in the community. And as a Shape Up instructor, I had to find an alternate way. So, of course, our co-founder of Harlem Run, Amir, encouraged me to start doing virtual workouts. So every Tuesday through Harlem Run, myself and a few other pacers were hosting different workouts through live on Instagram. So that was one way of keeping a sense of community and being together and trying to do things together. Another level has been just literally sharing with people what workouts I've done or where I did them or how I'm being protective, has been another level. As well as, being honest and having honest conversations with friends and individuals in the community. What are who's in my pod? What are my COVID boundaries, for lack of better words, as well as the individuals I live with, so that we're all trying to stay safe. But I think that that's been the bulk. There's been a lot of check-ins. There's been a lot of texts just to make sure that we're being supportive of one another and a sense of community is still there.
For sure. It's been a lot of adapting and evolving over time. One of the things that I've enjoyed has been essentially like a little FaceTime prior to a run and then after a run. And it feels like you sort of did it with somebody else, but you could be 2,000 miles apart. So it's finding these like little things that add some sense of normalcy into this period that's not very normal.
Yep. Definitely.
So you mentioned Harlem Run. How did you get involved with that organization?
It's funny, not too funny story. So I was going through a very difficult time about 5 years in my life, turning point in my life. And I was weighing, I stand 5'1", on the shorter side. And I was weighing about 85 pounds. So at this point, I was having a lot of back pain, feet pain, and a lot of other issues. So on top of what I was going through and emotionally where I was, mental health where I was, and I decided to make a shift. I started small by changing my eating habits. Then I finally got a gym membership. Then it was like, okay, let me actually go to the gym. Let me take a class. And my closest friend, who's also my cousin, has started running with Harlem Run. And she was introduced to Harlem Run by someone she attended college with. And she kept telling me to come. And I used to make all kind of jokes like, who runs in the snow? Who runs in the rain? Why would I run outside? I'm not a runner. Every excuse you could think of. So she took it upon herself and did like a white lie. She talked about Harlem Run had this new workout on Thursdays and it was going to be an amazing workout and I should come. So because I started going to the gym, I was like, okay, I'll do a workout. I'm not going to go out and run. So I showed up in July in 2015 to Harlem Run on a Thursday night, which is now I know their speed work night. I thought I was coming to do some, maybe HIIT classes or stretches or, something else.
Nope, time to work.
We do back check. As soon as we're done with back check, our coach, Rachel, on Thursday night says, all right, guys, we're all downstairs. We're going to run over to Marcus Garvey Park. I was like, run? What? What is this? But I mean, I walked over to Marcus Garvey Park, huffed and puffed. Our co-founder, Amir, actually stayed with me. We did 400 by 400 around Marcus Garvey. So like every opposite corners we would take, I think it was a 90-second break that we were taking. And Amir stayed with me. I was chewing gum. Amir's like, okay, maybe you might want to get rid of the gum. I wasn't wearing the right sneakers. I mean, I had cotton socks in the summer, like you name it. We all go through our phases of learning, right? What works best for us. And people were just so supportive and so nice. And I was hooked. I ended up coming back after that, shortly after that, in October 2015, then I became part of the leadership team of Harlem Run and became a pacer. So I've been a pacer with them now for about 5 years. But it's been a blessing. That little white lie has led to so many opportunities and growth and development in myself, but also in my involvement in the community and my professional development and supporting others on their journey. But yeah, that's honestly how how I got involved with Harlem Run, and ultimately like the beginning stages of me getting involved with running.
So it sounds like you had a pretty incredible first day at Harlem Run, chewing gum and wearing cotton socks and going through the park. Why did you go back for the second time?
Honestly, I came back because, like I mentioned formerly, the co-founder Amir stayed with me the whole time. He gave me a lot of words of encouragement. He had humor. It was very supportive from the beginning to the end. As a beginner, like complete beginner, no knowledge, I felt like the workout was very detailed and well explained. I also didn't feel alone. I felt supported. There was that sense of encouragement and achievement all in one workout. And then there was who are you? And the check-ins, the pre and post check-ins with each other. Obviously, there was that adrenaline rush. But I came back honestly because of the community. They were very supportive. Some people immediately requested me on social media, checked in, gave me advice, shared links. So, going from a Thursday to a Monday night run made it even better because there was a place, for me. I wasn't ready already. I wasn't ready in the beginning to dive completely into running. But it was amazing that Harlem Run offered a walking group in addition to the paces that they offer. At the time, they were the only running group in New York City that I knew of that was offering that. But with every walk, I learned more from other runners or even other people that might be in their journey to getting into running. And even the pacers themselves. There was just a wealth of information, but it wasn't just about running. It was about your mental health. It was about the community, what's going on, how are we? It was a real sense. I keep using the word community, but I just felt seen, heard, validated, understood, and like I belonged. So to me, it was like, how could I not come back while working on myself and continue to engage in a community that's being that supportive of me and my own personal goals.
Something you said there struck a chord. You said you felt seen, heard, and validated.
Yes.
So as I mentioned before we started recording, I've been pretty much alone for the entire last few months of quarantine, isolation, whatnot. And on a run the other day, I was running. It was my long run. I was about to start a tempo, and I was feeling really good. And this dude in a Penske truck driving by through Newton shouts out the window like, "Happy holidays, bro! Like looking money." And I smiled, and I was like, "Hell yeah! I'm feeling money. I'm feeling good. I was rolling." And in that moment, I was like, okay, that was fun. And we leapfrogged for the next couple blocks, and he kept shouting out the window, and he was fist pumping. And then we turned, and I didn't think much of it. And then I brought this up in my therapy appointment yesterday, and I said to my therapist, I was like, that stupid random little encounter was the best part of my week. And I was like, yeah, well, endorphin assisted. But the point was, so my therapist was like, yes, you felt seen, heard, and validated. He used the same words that you just used. He was like, somebody else was experiencing something with you and you felt seen. And so I can only imagine how you felt on that day because it's just so important. So it's a little segue into, you said you're a social worker as well. 2020, I'm sure, has been a challenging year to do that professionally while also dealing with your own mental health. Which is something I'd like to talk about a lot on this podcast. So my first question is, how did mental health become an interest for you, first professionally?
So professionally, even before I knew I wanted to be a social worker, as I mentioned formerly, I'm a product of my community. I was part of the New York City NYPD Explorers Program, which is where they have different young adults in the community engage in a program where they're teaching you obviously different values, integrity. They're teaching you, basic skill sets like how to stop a vehicle, safety and first aid, and you do competition, a whole bunch of stuff. But the police officer that I had, there was a mentor at the time. We were talking about like my career paths when I was in high school, which way I was going to go. And at that point, to be honest, in my family, no one had graduated high school. So to me, my goal was just to graduate high school, right? So this program were the only people really talking to me about college. And based on like my community involvement through the program and the volunteer stuff that I had done, he suggested, well, why don't you become a police officer? And then I looked into it, and then I was like, well, what about social work? And he talked about, well, social work, being a police officer is one of the biggest ways to be a social worker. Now we're talking about back in 1999, 2000. And, that led to a lot of dialogue, a lot of research, a lot of thought process. But looking back now as a 36-year-old woman, I've always played somewhat of a role of a social worker in the community in different ways. So it was natural to me when I decided to go to school, when I was in undergrad, when I went and got my master's and continued that, to do it. What I did realize, though, initially when I went into it, I thought I was going to go down the path of clinical social work, like direct one-on-one work. And I've been now in the child welfare world about 14 years now. I've been in the child welfare world. So for a lot of people that don't know, that's, I think about foster care, prevention, reunifying families, adoptions, that world. And I did direct practice, supervision, community work. And then now for the last 3 years, I've transitioned more to the administrative side. So I'm working directly for the commissioner of ACS, which is the Administration for Children's Services in New York. And I work specifically in the Office of Agency Accountability, which is making sure that the recommendations that are issued to the Administration for Children's Services by external oversight, such as the Department of Investigation or the state or city comptroller's office or the Office of Children and Family Services, among others, external oversights, those recommendations that are issued to us and are accepted, that we are making sure. So between my supervisor and I, we are making sure that these things are implemented, but we're also making sure that they're just not saying they're implemented. We're asking appropriate questions. We're requesting supportive documents. We're having ongoing dialogue around how has this been implemented, but also how is it being sustained. So that's the work that I do currently, where I transition more from the one-on-one more to a system level. But I think through the years I've transitioned. When I went to get my master's is when I really dove into my interests. And that's really where I really had that light bulb. Like, I love the community aspect. I love doing the administrative aspect, more the system level. How can we impact or create change that is going to impact a larger audience or a larger population or a larger community? And that's, and it speaks to my engagement with Harlem Run. It speaks to me being a Shape Up instructor. It speaks to me being a mentor. It literally speaks to so many parts of my life. But social work for me really came from the number of social workers, whether they had the title of social worker or not, the roles that they played in my life, my brother's life, and my mother's life, through my childhood and even my adult life. and how they supported us and what we needed at the time so that we could be here. So I think it just stemmed from personal experiences and traumas all the way through just accomplishments and successes that we've also had individually and in my involvement in a lot of other things. So it's a wealth. There's many reasons how
No, it's super cool.
I'm in social work.
It's always fascinating when a lived experience changes a path. And so you said that your own history, your own experience prior led to your desire to help others. I think that's an admirable quality, and I think it's also an interesting reflection to essentially see and say, I want a better way, and I want to help other people see a better way as well.
Yes.
The parallel to Harlem Run is also interesting because it sounds like they are equipped to work with amateur runners and welcome amateur runners into the community in ways that I don't think I've heard about before. I've been a part of a run group that I couldn't imagine being an amateur runner, or I couldn't imagine being a beginner runner in starting in a walk run program. So talk to me about the intentional or the intentionality there, and maybe what people can do if, I mean, in this time when gyms are closed and all, everybody seems to be running. Like, let's say somebody listening has a friend that's wanting to start running. Like, what do you tell those people? What are you saying to them? How are you coaching them?
So I think, I definitely have to owe it to our founder, Allison Desir, who founded Harlem Run, right? And created a space where she wanted everyone to feel welcome, but also to be diverse. I think one of the greatest things that I love about our group is that on any given Monday or Thursday, you may see a mom or a father in a stroller. You may see an individual with their dog. You may see someone come out with their child. You may see someone come out pregnant. You're going to see someone that runs a 7-minute mile or a 6-minute mile come out, or you're going to have someone that runs a 15-minute or someone that's brand new. I think that the Pacers, the team that I'm part of, we remember and we know, and we also have our moments where some of us have had step backs because of injuries, because of life, because of different situations. So we're able to relate, right, to what people are going through in regards to, running what people may consider slow, and to me, honestly, your race, your pace, right? So whatever you're running, that's exactly where you are, and that's your baseline, and work from there. And I think that another great thing that Harlem Run does is it's a community run. It's not for training, it's not for competitiveness. We don't promote, running every race and getting every medal, and we don't promote like the time is the best thing. It's more about being, healthy. It's and healthy in regards to making sure you're taking care of yourself, whatever that means for you. And I think that trickles down, from the top down. And by the top, I mean, obviously our founder, our co-founder, and then all of us, the Pacers, and even each other. It's beautiful to see, like, when we get together and we do have a social run, how you might have supported someone on their journey and now they're supporting somebody else. So it's like this trickle effect, or ripple effect, I think is the word. It just everybody just does it for each other naturally. And in regards to like what we share, I mean, it's like basic things. Like when we started this conversation, I talked about, I came with sneakers that were not running sneakers. I came with cotton socks. And then I had to learn these things, right? Harlem Run at, different periods has done workshop series with, like, what do you wear in the cold? What do you wear in the rain? What's appropriate things to wear? for running, where do I go? And, they have different coaches and whatnot come in, and they've done different series on different things. How do you prepare for the marathon? Like, what's a marathon training plan? So we've been fortunate that a lot of individuals in the community have also supported us along the journey. And because of that, I, as an individual athlete and runner, have learned and been able to pass that on. Also, I used to work for Jack Rabbit, the New York running company, the main flagship store over on 59th Street. And they also gave me additional training around gait analysis and clothing and apparel and material. So I think it's pulling all of that together and all of us sharing it with each other, and then ultimately sharing it with the community. Like, we're not holding back any information. And some of us might be more skill set in one area versus another, but we're constantly sharing that information with each other, honestly, for personal improvement, to help each other become the better version of ourselves. And then in turn, we're just sharing it with our runners. On a Monday night run, I'm pacing the run walkers. I love my run walkers. I love seeing someone transition from I can't, or I'm at 16 to 13 minutes to, okay, Lisa, I'm leaving you now because I'm going to run with the 12-minute tonight. I love seeing that transition and then seeing that sense of accomplishment in themselves. But it also helps others see, by seeing others do that or start that journey with you, it helps others see, like, oh, I can do that too. Or, oh, he was injured and he came back. Oh, he had some personal stuff going on, or she has some personal stuff going on and she's been able to come back from that. So I think it's just that we're very honest. We're very open to everyone and anyone that comes. There's no sense of, we don't charge any membership fee. There's also, I will say now, the New York City running community, a lot of people stay and cheer as long as they can. When I first started running in 2015 and I started doing races in 2016, I was much slower than, what I was in 2017 and 2018 and 2019. And I was at the back of those races, and it was very lonesome to get to a lot of stops, a lot of miles, and no one was cheering you, no one was there. But then you would see it on the social media, you would hear it from other people how amazing it felt, but you didn't experience it. But Harlem Run wasn't that. Harlem Run had their miles, whether it was in the Bronx, whether it was in Brooklyn's races, whether it was Manhattan, the cheer station. There was always at least one or two people that would stay to make sure that they supported those in the back. And that also was another piece that was very supportive to me. And we've continued through the years. And it's actually great to see that so many other running groups are also doing that in the last couple of years. I would say in the last 2.5 years, because it's not about your pace, right? We're supporting each other and living a better and healthier lifestyle, regardless of what that reason is. It's not about, how many miles can you complete in a specific time or how fast can you go. It's really about being healthy, and creating that healthy space for others, that safe space for others.
I love that. I think that one of the things that makes running so relatable and approachable, or potentially approachable, is that I've spoken with Olympians, I've spoken with professional athletes, and they all feel that the numbers just don't matter. And what matters is, did you do your best? Did you put it all out there? Like, I had a conversation with Ben Rosario, who's the first guest on the podcast, and he's the coach of Northern Arizona Elite, a group of pretty high-end athletes. And he said, we don't even talk about times in our pre-race meetings. We talk about executing, and we talk about getting the best out of your body and being satisfied if you know that you gave it your all. And I think it's a little different, but it's the same mentality of, like, this running thing can be done by anyone, and we can all share a similar story, just done at different paces. And it's the attainment of beating your own best, or seeing what's possible, which is one of the things I like about this podcast, because like I said, like I've had 100 professional athletes on, and we rarely talk about paces because it just doesn't matter. And what matters is the story in between those miles, and the story in between those runs, and the story in between those races, and the people you share it with, and all of that. So I think it's really encouraging to hear that that's how it's being presented, and I think that there should be room for more of that.
Yeah, and unfortunately, as much as I agree, I also disagree with, that running is for everyone. And what I mean by that is that unfortunately, the running world is for individuals with money, right? I am in the social work profession, and I identify as working poor. Between my student loan debt and the cost of living in New York City and life itself, it's very, very expensive to be buying 2 pairs of sneakers at minimum a year to train and run a race, right? Plus the cost of the race, plus travel, plus food, plus nutrition, plus there's so many aspects, right, to training for a race. And it becomes very expensive. And it's sad in a way that a lot of individuals will love to experience these things and aren't able. I think that that's also one of the reasons why I appreciate that Harlem Run doesn't charge membership fee, and we give the knowledge we have for free, or we provide the resources that we have for free, or we try to connect with other individuals to support runners. We may not be able to give, scholarships or pay for every little thing, but there's been different opportunities, thanks to our founder and our co-founder, that we've been able to, like, for example, send people out to the Rockies. We had, I think it was 3 of our runners, people of color, the first Black man they've ever had that actually completed all the 6 days was our runner, right? And that to me speaks volume. One, more people of color should be involved in these things, but also it speaks to more people would do these things. You would see more people of color, but unfortunately, money plays a huge part, in accessibility for a lot of individuals. So I wish that there was more that a lot of these different companies that are involved, not just in the sport of running, but in sports general, would do for the communities, so that people could actually do more and be healthier, right, for themselves.
Yeah, and I think thank you for acknowledging that. It's something that, like, I often overlook, and and probably many of my listeners overlook, and it's a reminder that needs to be heard, and then more importantly, there needs to be something done about it. It's great to see. I have a friend who runs an organization here in Boston called Stride for Stride,
Oh,
and they're an organization that buys race bibs for immigrants, people of color, and low income runners. So the goal is to make races more accessible and more diverse. And I think that doing things like that and supporting groups like that it is a way to achieve some sort of progress. And it's, I think the only way is slowly chipping away at it and making it more accessible, and then showing that it can be more than what it appears to be. I did a podcast with a friend named Adam Mary, and he identifies as he is mixed race, and he said, I show up to a trail. He's half Black, and he says, I show up to a trail race, and I'm the only person that looks like me. And yeah, and he's at the front of the pack, and he's racing with other athletes, but he says he's it. I can't imagine how that feels, and I think you're absolutely right. Like, we need more of these programs, and we need more of these displays of, like, this is for everyone, and everyone is here.
Yeah,
It's not
exactly.
just saying it, right?
Yeah. And I, again, like, I continue to grow and develop and research and learn and listen, right? Because no one knows it all. And I'm very grateful for, like I said, a lot of the work that the individuals, at least, not just the individuals from Harlem Run, but others that are doing in the community around representation. But, Alison Desir, our founder, she's very comfortable calling out, individuals or companies or organizations, around those taboo and uncomfortable things that we may feel uncomfortable addressing. Like, why aren't there more people of color, on magazine? Why aren't there more people that look like me? Why is it always about slim, skinny, look? Why aren't there more individuals on the thicker end? Why aren't there more individuals, with different paces, So I think there's just a continue axe and push. There needs to be a community effort to continue to push for representation on all levels, right? Not just economically, but there are so many running groups all over the United States and the world, right? That should be reflected. If I pick up any type of magazine or look at any product, I should be able to see that. It shouldn't be the constant same hair type, same skin tone, same weight, same paces. There should be so much. There's so much more to the individuals that are running than just those things. But it's just, I think, another highlight of Harlem Run. And I think it's another reason why individuals, feel at home, for lack of better words, because someone looks like me. Not only does someone look like me, someone works in the same profession as me. Someone made it here despite being a parent. Someone is here with their child despite not being able to have daycare to take care of their body. Or someone, knows about a program where I can get free coaching or I can get free HIIT classes that will support my strengthening for my running. So I think it's again, it speaks to the word itself, community, but it's really bigger than that, in that we're advocating through the usage of movement to promote real change in the individual and ultimately on a bigger scale in the communities. And hopefully, I know Allison will definitely, continue, but hopefully on a bigger spectrum in these companies and these organizations and those individuals putting on races. And, that's the goal.
Yeah, and I think that running is something that's so fundamental to health, right? Plenty of people run for running's sake, and then there are people who run for health and fit and longevity sake, right? Like if you run for 30 minutes a day 3 times a week, it's probably one of the best things you can do from a cardiovascular standpoint, not related to food. So fundamentally, like that needs to happen more. There's a lack of activity problem for, I don't know, the majority of Americans. And running is probably the easiest, or walking maybe is the easiest, but running might be the next easiest in terms of skills required and tools required and places that it can be done. You don't need a gym. You don't need a blah, blah, blah. You do need the shoes. You do need the socks and all that stuff. So I think that I agree. It's you talked about a systemic or a public health focus of it. Like, I think that's the need. It needs to be, it's sort of the twofold approach that boots on the ground, that part's necessary, but I think there needs to be incentives in the right way. And one of the problems with our country is that everything is financially motivated. And so there needs to be the right incentives for these companies and these government agencies and things like that to care about this. And whether it's the insurance companies that do it, I work for a company that is in the business of optimizing and improving life and longevity. And you would think that an insurance company would want this for their for their subscribers. But the problem is it's a delayed cost. So because they don't need to pay for something now, they don't want to pay for something now.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of evidence that suggests, if you do this, then you will improve.
Yeah.
Prevent. Yeah. But it's like, okay, you could spend $100 now, or you could spend $1,000 later, and at a population level, they'll take the $1,000 later every single time, which is terrible.
And I mean, and it's you're right. There's so many factors, and this is such a deep rooted thing, because also, if you think about safety, right? I'm a female of color. I identify on the thicker end, and I can't just wear whatever I want when I go out running, right? Because I get hollered at, I get all kind of words. If I don't pay attention to, then I get cursed out. I get called all type of names if I don't pay attention to the callings or the cat calling. Like, I can't just go out for a run, right? I can't wear headphones, because if I wear headphones, then now my safety is also at risk. I can't run in the evening. I can't run early mornings, because I have to be attentive of my safety. And that's just as a female. Now, when you're talking about a person of color, some of my friends, they can't just get up and run as a male, because people will see them a certain way. They're assuming they're running to or from something, or there's so much more to this, and race and skin tone and what you look like in the communities that you're running in, and accessibility that plays a role. It's so much more than just public health and these companies. And I think that that's just the continued conversations that need to happen, and the continued advocacy that needs to happen on so many different spectrums. But to speak to some of the things that you're also mentioning, like the city insurance that I have, medical insurance through the city as an employee, actually, they've started in the last 2 years, like offering people gift cards if you attend, if you're attending your annual exam on an annual basis. You get put into a raffle. If you are engaging in like a physical activity and provide some level of documentation of that, they're rewarding you and entering you into raffles for something else. So I will say that that's my first time encountering an insurance trying to be preventive in regards to someone's health, and encouraging them to do more activities and be more active and be more attentive to their health and what's going on, and preventive measures, as opposed to the other end, which is like, we want to make money in the long run, so let's not say anything.
Thanks again to GU Energy Labs for sponsoring this episode. Initially known as the Energy Gel Company, GU now offers several different product lines designed to meet the needs of today's athlete. It's not just the mid-run refueling option that I love, but their post-run recovery protein that mixes so well with coffee, or even the before-bed magnesium and vitamin D supplement too. No other magnesium supplement has worked as well as theirs has for me. This season of running is a great time to try something new, so why not try GU? For the Long Run listeners, get 20% off anything on their site with the code FTLR at guenergy.com. And now back to our conversation. How have you used running to help you in 2020?
So 2020, like for many people, has been very challenging, but also for me has also been very rewarding, very eye-opening. There's been a lot of things that I'm also grateful that 2020 exposed me to, or helped me develop or grow. As a runner, in the beginning of the year, I would say probably through maybe August, it was hard. It was hard because I moved back home because of COVID. So I'm back at home with my mother and my brother. So it was very scary. How do you navigate that? How do I go out and be safe? Also, we didn't have all the information we have now about COVID, and we still don't, right? So it was very scary. Our community runs had gone virtual, so you do it on your own type thing. So it was very difficult to get up and go. I think that those individuals that you created a relationship with in the running world is what kept me getting up. One of our pacers from Harlem Run, JD, started using this hashtag team GSD, which is I don't know if I can say the second word.
Go for it. Yeah.
Shit done. He just kept tagging us, and we were all like, the hashtag kept motivating us to get up and tag each other and post videos on each other's pages. So I would say for the beginning portion of COVID, I was very highly motivated. I was trying to stay busy. So I was using my stairs in the apartment building as a way to work out, since I can't go to the gym and can't go anywhere. I was doing the virtual beginner bootcamp classes, which forced me to work out while helping others, right? Virtually. I have a step. I was doing step with the videos from YouTube to stay motivated. Unfortunately, our neighbor downstairs, we live in a building and we have wooden floors. She was complaining. So I had to be strategic about what I can and can't do. So then I transitioned to getting back on my bike, which was interesting. And just going out for bike rides on my own and enjoying the sun and the breeze and, still being protective and socially distanced. But unfortunately, in the last, I would say, 3 months, it's been very difficult. Harlem Run officially came back in September, thank God. We're running together, but socially distanced, masks required at all time. So because of that, I've been able to still, at minimum, Monday nights, at least, to get out the door in community and get some form of movement. But it's been very difficult. So I have a pinched nerve in my back. And then I have extremely, extremely tight psoas muscles. And then on top of that, working from home, not having the appropriate seating while you're working all day on a computer has impacted that flexibility, which in turn has impacted so many other factors about like getting up and going. In addition to that, unfortunately, fortunately, but also grateful, my mom suffered a heart attack and then went into cardiac arrest and was hospitalized, had 2 surgeries. Now she's back home, and the recovery is another journey. So now I'm a caretaker, but a lot of different factors, a lot of different things have played into the last couple of months, but I'm grateful for the community because at minimum, I'm able to get out on Monday nights. And when I can't get out, or I only get out on Monday nights, I have those individuals reaching out, let's go for a walk, or I'm downstairs, or meet me here. So there is still a level of movement that's happening. And hopefully, in the coming year, once my mother's insurance approve a few more things, I'll be able to get back into my routines of running several times a week, specifically for my mental health, just to feel like I can breathe. But it's difficult. I think it's a difficult time that we're all living in, especially in the cities versus individuals living in an apartment complex versus someone living in a house. I think there are different risk factors, and living alone versus living with others there's different factors, right? Pros and cons to everything. But running this year has been interesting, to say the least. I was supposed to be training to run London. That didn't happen. So hopefully I'll be running London's marathon, God willing, next October. But it's been a challenge, and because these are outlets that I use, whether it's getting on a bike, whether it's running, whether it's going to a gym class or yoga, these are outlets that I've used as part of, like, for lack of better words, my mental health treatment, for me to be able to release, for me to be able to be present with myself, for me to like literally close, the 1001 tabs that I currently have in my mind, right? And just shut down and reboot. And it's been very difficult because I'm not a homebody. So it's like,
Yeah.
for me, it's kind of felt like, when you get put on punishment, like you're grounded. Um,
You're grounded. Yeah.
and it's like,
Yeah. We've all been grounded for nine months.
uh, so I've been exploring different things. For years have wanted to learn to knit. I literally self-taught myself through watching videos and reading things online. So because of COVID, I am a knitter now. I opened my business a month ago, and have been selling like knitted goods. So I'm finding alternate ways of um, closing all those 1001 tabs and still finding a way to literally take care of myself, self care. And then in regards to the fitness, like I mentioned, things are always going to happen. You just have to reanalyze and reassess how to do or what to do, right? So for me, it's been like I need to take a step back and reassess where I am, where my body is, what I need. So I started going to some PT sessions. So that's something that I started recently, is going to PT sessions. I am back into therapy. And then in addition to that, like I mentioned, the knitting has been another supportive way of me, like literally just shutting down and focusing on one thing. And then like obviously Monday night runs, I look forward to them every single week with Harlem Run. And then, hopefully in the new year I can get back to doing more of these things, but we don't know what the new normal is going to be, right? So hopefully looking forward to, I don't even want to say the new year, but just the next month, which is January, to be able to do more and get my body more in movement than it has been.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's amazing what the 30, 60, 90-minute time to yourself can do for you in so many ways. One thing you posted on Instagram recently that I absolutely loved was a photo of a dead battery, and it said, you wouldn't let this happen to your phone. Don't let it happen to you either.
Yeah.
Self-care is a priority, not a luxury. I think that if 2020 has taught us anything about self-care or the importance of mental health, like that's it. Like that's the core of what needs to be commonplace. And I saw something on Twitter the other day that I don't remember what the actual tweet was, but the context of it was basically like everybody is walking around completely insane and nobody has their head on straight right now. And I think that maybe it's always been that way, but now there's just sort of an acceptance that it's normal to, or it's okay to not be okay and to need to do something about it.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think that it also created, sorry, that's my work phone. Sorry about that. I think it also created a sense of also awareness about what a lot of us in lower incomes or lower income communities, things have been lacking, right? And the resources that haven't been around, right? So, someone like myself with a master's degree, a professional working for the city, shouldn't be struggling to find a way to pay not only basic needs like food, medical, housing, but in addition to that, mental health. Like it shouldn't be so difficult to have that. And that's me as someone, that's considered, right, a professional because I have a master's degree. And there's so many other individuals that need it, and we know the importance. And I think that, like you mentioned, COVID has definitely, these situations have highlighted a lot of these things in our communities, in our state, in our country, that we maybe knew, maybe didn't know, maybe thought about it or knew and didn't do anything. I think that now is in every conversation. It's being put out there.
And it can't be ignored anymore.
Yeah, it can't be ignored at this point. There has to be more attention to it. And it's needed. Like it impacts, like, I mentioned to, like I mentioned, our founder, Allison Desir, came and supported me and my brother the day my mom was getting one of her heart surgery. And, we briefly talked about different things. And one of the things we talked about is like, who knows what impact this is going to have on the children, right? For future generation, because so much of our communication is body language, and we're covered now, especially now in the winter. You're covered because of all the attire you wear, but now you're also covering your face. So how is that going to impact future generations and communication styles and whatnot? Or even just how do you cope? Like, how
Social skills.
Yeah. So mental health is definitely, I think, I'm grateful that COVID has made more and more things, put them out in the open, right? A lot of us know them, but I think it is putting them out there and making more and more people aware. But I'm hopeful that this will create more change and more dialogue, and hoping that it's not just while COVID is happening or while COVID still doesn't have a resolution, that these are discussions, and hopefully that people will create change or support or try to give more for people to be able to take care of themselves. And also understanding, like you mentioned, I think you said it great. It's okay to not be okay, right? With everything going on, all these additional stressors in addition to our daily life stressors, I think it's okay for people to understand that it's okay not to be okay, which is why I'm like, I had to take a step back from all the titles and all my responsibilities in the community and literally focus on like self-care. And that, some days it's literally me shutting everything down and taking a bath and literally sitting in a bath with a bath bomb for an hour. Some days it might be, let me get on Zoom with the girls. Some days it's, I have to go to Harlem Run. My phone is on silent, do not disturb. So I think it's just all of us reminding ourselves that it's okay. Wherever you are right now is where you need to be. And that's your baseline. That's your starting point when you're ready to get to whatever the next step is or your next chapter is, because none of us have a book, a guide on how to function in these current times. And none of us know what's next, right?
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's such a, it makes so much sense. And it's, as you said, now we have an awareness and a public discussion about things that were swept under the rug or were, you don't really talk about these things. And now they can't be ignored and they can't stay the way that they have been. So I hope that we see change with a lot of these things that we've talked about. And I'm cautiously optimistic on it. I think that a lot of it has become so front and center that it would be a colossal failure for many, many people if, we went back to our normal lives after this. So hopefully we don't. And we all have to work to make that the reality. Switching gears a little bit, but sort of along similar lines, one of the fan submitted questions was, the day has only 24 hours, but your days seem to have 48 hours. How do you manage your time? You are one involved queen.
Whoa. Okay. I think that, I, as a type A personality, very detailed structure, I think that was encouraged or improved in my years as a young adult in the NYPD Explorers program. And then when I was in the military, it was definitely highlighted, being structured and rituals and routines and times and planning. And then, transitioning into the child welfare world and working with, caseloads that were over the required amount, number of families, emergencies, crisis. I think that being very detailed and structured. I love that calendars are now electronics. I mean, I have like 3 emails. All of them have calendars on my phone. Everything is being put in there. I have 24 hours, like everyone else, right? What you do with them is what counts. The best thing I could tell anyone in order for you to continue to perform your best is try, right? Try. And by trying, I mean literally pencil into your calendar or put a post-it on your mirror that you look at every day or in your car, every day. Try to give yourself 15, 30 minutes every day just for you to breathe, for you to think, for you to, talk about what you're grateful for you to work out, whatever it is. Try to give yourself 15, 30 minutes every day, because that's what's going to keep you going. Like I mentioned before, I am a lover of baths. So for me, baths are one of those things. I now love and enjoy knitting because it forces me to just focus on the pattern that I am repeating to create an end result. And it forces me to like not stress or worried about other things, but that one pattern that I'm working on. It may be running, it may get on a bike, it may be, listen to music and dance for 15 minutes or sit in the car outside for 5 minutes, or maybe read out affirmations. I think that it's in order for you to keep going, you have to take care of yourself. There's no other way. And I think living your life with intention and purpose, I think, is great. Like a lot of the stuff that I do, I don't feel like it's work because I love doing it, so because I love pacing, because I love doing the.
But that's it's a double-edged sword, in a way, because and I feel like we are very similar in that regard. I absolutely love what I do for work. I would do it all day, but I found recently I've like put myself into a hole, and it's like, yeah, I could just work more because I enjoy it. But at some point, as you said, it's the like you have to pull back so you can spring forward.
Yep. You have to create those boundaries, like with anything in life, right? So although it may seem, whoever submitted the question, although it may seem like I 8 hours, I only have 24, but I am very strategic about what I do with those 24 hours. And those individuals that are close to me are very aware of my boundaries. Like, for example, Monday nights and Thursday night, unless it's an emergency or caretaking responsibilities for my mom, like they're not to be disturbed. That is like my time for Harlem Run and my time for pacing. Like that is no, unless it's a crisis situation or an emergency situation, it's not happening, because it's not just about giving to the community, but it's also a time for me. It's a time for me to refuel and release and be re-energized to be able to produce the next day. So I think it's not just also creating that time. I think it's also vocalizing that time to those closest to you. May it be a partner, may it be your best friends, may it be your roommates, whoever that's your supportive network, because they will also help you hold you accountable. My friends will be like, no, you said you weren't, when I train, I usually don't drink alcohol. So they'll remind me of that. But yeah. So
Positively or negatively?
no, positively. So they'll positive. Well, one will be like, come on, it's just a drink, but it's carbs. They'll help you run better.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so I think it's just being a planner. I think everybody's capable of it, but in order for you to do that, you have to be intentional with what you want to do, what's important to you, and then sticking to those boundaries, creating boundaries, because it's very easy to be like, I'm not doing anything, or, I'm not, not going to do that today. And also being okay to like grieve things that didn't work out the way you thought they wanted to work out, or being okay that, you can't control everything that happens, right? But we can choose what we're going to do next, or what we're going to try to do next, or how we're going to respond to that. So it's also being okay with, oh, that didn't work today, or I had that plan today. Now I have an hour to myself versus, 30 minutes. So
That makes sense. I think my last question is, what do you back to this running thing? What do you know now about running that you wish you knew when you started?
ooh, what do I know now about running? See, that's a good question, because along the journey, I ask questions. I never not feel comfortable posing questions. So along the way,
Mm-hmm.
I've been fortunate enough to meet many runners, athletes of all levels, coaches of different levels and different fields that have supported me along the journey. But I think I don't think I would like change necessarily or want to know anything different, because it helped develop me along the way. Asking some of these questions helped me better interview when, I was being interviewed to work at Jackrabbit, the running company. It helped me, be a better, for lack of a better word, salesperson at Jackrabbit, but it also helped develop me as a runner, which in turn helped me share that wealth of knowledge with others. I mean, I'm grateful that my cousin used the white lie to get me to Harlem Run, right? Because
I love that so much.
she
Oh yeah, it's just an easy run.
yeah, she had tried for so many months, and I was like, nope, not happening. But I don't. Maybe having. You know what? I take it back. I think that I would want to have a better understanding of like race and culture, and like the money component to running, and money component in various ways, like what does it cost, right, to run these things, how much you're really going to spend, and how to really, and why you're spending this money, like, to support your body in order for it to perform its best, but also for it to recover and continue to perform so it doesn't impact you in the long run. I think if those are some things that maybe I wish I would have knew early on, because then I could have budgeted better. I think the first 2 years into running, I got a lot of credit card debt. The first 2 years into running, because I wanted to run all these races. I wanted to travel. I needed to have 2 pairs of sneakers at minimum, to train and run. And I needed to get my nutrition, and I needed to get my PT. So I think, as a planner, right, I would have liked to know more about that aspect of running, so that I could have better coordinated or planned my finances, or sought out supports if possible, or resources to support that journey.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing you and your community with my audience here. And I'm excited to share this one.
Jonathan, it was a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful holiday season. And I hope that the new year is great for you and all of us.
Of course. And likewise. And maybe I'll see you at the New York City Marathon next fall. Hopefully it happens.
Hopefully.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's it for today's episode. Like many long runs, it's sad when it has to end. I hope you join in next week on For the Long Run. And in the meantime, happy trails. If you've enjoyed this episode, it would mean a lot to me if you shared it so that others can find it and enjoy it too.